And welcome back to Motorshow Updates with Mr. Dude, we can play with the bikes later. We still have cars to talk about.
Oh, sorry man, this fuel cap makes a really nice clinking sound. Like, listen to that. It's very nice. Satisfying sound. Sorry, what are we talking about? Hey.
Alright man, so the next manufacturer we're talking about is, the industry is a very tough business to break into, the automotive industry, right?
Yeah.
We have a few new manufacturers coming, Tesla being like the latest, but it took them like a decade to really solidify their
Oh yeah, they went through a lot of trouble.
Yeah, but this next one is from Vietnam and it's called Vinfast.
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 Vinfast? Are you saying it with Tamil accent? Is it Vinfast?
Vinfast. To give you a little bit of context, Vinfast is the largest conglomerate in Vietnam. They own schools, they own factories, they pretty much own everything. In fact, you could sort of say they're probably like the Reliance. How what Reliance is to India is what Vinfast is to Vietnam.
Oh, okay. So it's like if Reliance were to get into the car business, this is kind of like that.
Sort of like that. To set up the business, Vinfast has invested $3.5 billion into all their facilities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And 1 year ago, they did not even have a car, not even a design. But what we're going to see is the finished designs and pretty much production ready, all in a span of 1 year. By number one, hiring the designer.
Yeah.
Now, he's a chap called Giorgio. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but
he is.
It sounds very Italian, right?
Giorgio.
But the way they also did it is because they're such a big conglomerate, they crowdsourced the design. So Vinfast essentially asked Pininfarina, Italian design Giorgio, and Zagato, and for a saloon and an SUV. And what they did was they put it out for the Vietnamese public to vote. 60,000 people voted and these were the final designs. But we'll get to that in just a second because
it sounds like Reliance and Indian Idol and everything. But this sounds exciting already, man. Look at all of this.
Now, before we get into the actual cars themselves, I first want to show you what this guy has designed in the past. So this is some of his work. This is the first one. It's the Aston Martin DB4 Bertoni Jet.
Oh my God.
This is a car that he's designed.
All right. Where have you been all my life? Okay.
The next one is the BMW M1. This is the same design as the M1, but not just that. The Lotus Esprit.
80s. Come on! Everything cool is from the 80s and the 70s.
And if you're a fan of Back to the Future, he designed the DeLorean, the legendary DeLorean. And I know you're a fan of hatchbacks. He also designed the Golf Mark 1. We were talking about that a little bit earlier.
Everything
but not just that.
What?
Not just cars.
Next, great.
He's also designed a Beretta. This is the U22 Neo. He's a gun designer. And the CX4 Storm. If you're a fan of Counter-Strike, you might be familiar with a gun of this type.
Right.
So he's also designed motorcycles and camera bodies and so on and so forth. But these are the main highlights.
Of course.
Yeah, so he's obviously the coolest man in the world.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at what he's put together when it comes to the cars.
So all of this build up, and then now this is what he...
This is it. Now there are two cars basically, a sedan and a crossover. The sedan is called the LUX A2.0 and the SUV is called the LUX SA2.0. We'll get to the nomenclature in just a second. But let's talk about the design first of this sedan. Again, very Italian. It looks almost Alfa Romeo-ish, right?
Yeah, you're right. It's very Alfa Romeo meets Tesla meets... it's very nice though.
Very brute. It's got my favorite design feature are what they've done with the LED DRLs. It's nicely integrated into one seamless line.
Right.
Looks very cool. Also, it's got dual exhaust in the back. Coming to the interiors, so this is the interiors, clean lines. If you look at the infotainment system, it's very reminiscent of what Volvo has.
Right.
So again, it looks like you could say that they've taken bits and pieces of other cars, but I think that's a little too much criticism.
To be honest, with the kind of heritage that this designer brings, if you were to criticize anything he made, you'd have to be hung by the rest of the design community. You can't criticize the god of design. Even if he just designed the Esprit or even just the M1, any one of these things he could have designed and then he could have drawn a turd and sold it, and it would be your duty to figure out what is beautiful about it.
We'll quickly talk about the SUV as well. This is the SUV. Again, very interesting. If you look at the entire tail lamp cluster, it's almost seamless. So you just have the Vinfast logo in the middle. Pretty interesting. Dual exhaust pipes, always a plus. To me, if I had to sum up the design, in the front it looks a bit like the Alfa Quadrifoglio Polio Forgio, the Alpha SUV, and the X5.
I'm a bigger fan of the sedan though, the SUV.
I agree there. And going to the interiors of the SUV, again, very similar to the sedan. Now, to give you some context of what these cars are, they're positioning these cars as luxury cars. Now, it's speculated that when the car is going to be launched, apparently it's going to be launched in Vietnam in December, so just a couple of months away.
Right.
It's going to be competing with like BMW, Mercedes, and all these other premium brands at a price of $50,000 US.
Yeah.
It's not cheap by any means if you look at it as a Vietnamese car.
Yeah.
But compared to maybe a $70,000 top of the line 5 Series saloon, seems like a bit of a bargain.
But then I'm curious to know what they target TG is, you know.
So it's called the LUX A2.0, and a little bit of a nomenclature, because nomenclature is super important in cars.
Yeah.
LUX because luxury, A because they believe is the best, like A+, and 2.0 meaning engine capacity.
You know, they got the best freaking coolest designer.
Yeah.
And then they name it. I wish they'd spent like another $100,000 to go to the cool car naming company.
LUX 2.0 doesn't really roll off the tongue.
Yeah, so I was reading up, and it turns out the reason, and it makes sense why it came out so 1 year.
1 year.
You know,
It takes at least 6 to 8 years to develop a car. That's the usual life cycle. But they've done it in 1 year from ground up.
Yeah, so then you're questioning the engineering integrity.
Exactly.
But in a way, it's sorted because they've gone to BMW and they kind of use the old 5 Series platform and engine and all of that. But they say they upgraded it, so it's not gonna it's not gonna seem old. They say they've upgraded the engine, tuned it up.
It's like what SsangYong Rexton.
Yeah.
It's basically based on an old Mercedes chassis with an engine.
An old M-Class.
They got David Beckham and Miss Vietnam to launch the car.
David Beckham and Miss Vietnam. Yeah, I know that.
It's an interesting combination.
It seems like honestly, this kind of cockiness, it feels like a Reliance thing. I wonder if you were to imagine if Reliance were to make a car, what do you think it would be called? And what do you think it would look like? And who do you think they would call to launch said car?
Oh, now that's an interesting contest. And I think that's a great note to end our discussion on the Vinfast.
If you win, you get a free Geo SIM card.
And we might just get shut off about now.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching, folks. Stay tuned. More information coming your way.
Yeah.